The year was 1985. 99-year-old Otto Bucher became the oldest man to score a hole-in-one at GC La Manga's 130-yard 12th hole in Spain, and 14-year-old Mary Jo Fernandez became the youngest tennis player to win at the U.S. Open. Bill Shoemaker became the first jockey to win $100 million, and Michael Jordan was named the NBA Rookie of the Year. And in other sports news, a wrestling movie was released in theaters that may not actually be about wrestling at all. But Jesse never saw it, until now. This is Movies I Missed, 1985, Episode 5, Vision Quest.
I'm Jesse Munoz.
And I'm Ryan Miller.
This is Movies I Missed, 1985, Episode number 5. Today we're talking about the movie Vision Quest, released February 15th, 1985, with a running time of 1 hour and 47 minutes. I want to give a warning that we will be discussing all aspects of this movie. That includes spoilers. Vision Quest is a 1985 coming-of-age drama directed by Harold Becker, starring Matthew Modine as Loudon Swain, a high school wrestler determined to push himself beyond his limits by dropping weight to challenge the state's most formidable opponent. His focus is tested when he falls for Carla, played by Linda Florentino, an independent and free-spirited drifter who temporarily moves in with his family. As he trains for the biggest match of his life, Loudon struggles with newfound emotions, personal challenges, and the pursuit of something deeper than just winning.
Aren't you ever going to talk to me again?
Do you care whether I do or not?
Wait a minute. I think I missed something somewhere. I heard you fainted in school. I was worried about you. We had kind of a nice conversation about it, and then you go around like I'm some kind of intrusion on you.
You heard I fainted? Tanner, I told you. I told you everything I said.
We talked about you. He says you're very sensitive.
Sure he does.
Even though I don't see a whole lot of that in you.
Look, unless you want to see more than you bargained for, you better beat it.
I've seen naked men before.
Yeah, I bet you have.
Would you stop playing this number? Look, just because I'm staying here, you want me to go? I'll go.
Do what you want!
But what the hell do you want from me?
You fucking Tanner, why did you fuck me, huh?
Son of a bitch! Don't you ever try that again! I choose who I'm gonna be with and what I'm gonna do. And I'm never gonna be with any foul-mouthed kid jock who thinks a stiff cock is the height of romance. Part of being a man, asshole, is knowing what a woman wants and respecting that. Part of being a kid is you could say something really stupid. Still not get your face ripped off for saying it.
Before we get into the meat of the show, do want to do some plugs, which we haven't done. I keep forgetting to do. This is episode 5. Forgot to do it for episodes 1 through 4. We have our website, moviesimiss.com. You can listen to all the episodes there. We've got links to all our social media. We're on Instagram at Movies I Miss Podcast and YouTube with the same handle at Movies I Miss Podcast. We post stuff on our Instagram, and we post the show to Instagram and clips and stuff. So subscribe and follow us on social media. We'd appreciate it.
Super professional. That's us.
That's what totally. It only took us 16 episodes to finally plug it. All right. So Vision Quest.
I have a question for you, because this was your choice. You know, when we pick a year, like I chose this year, so you had no input on that. And then, you know, I'm assuming like me, you go to like Wikipedia and you look at movies that came out. And was this a movie that was even on your radar? You had any clue it existed before that?
Nope. Not at all.
Yeah, same for me. I never heard of it.
Yeah. So when I'm going through the movies, right, there's like some of the bigger ones I think we've covered or we'll be covering. And then there's stuff that's like I'm discovering as I'm going through that list of movies from 1985. And I see this one, it's got Matthew Modine, and he's one of those people that like, I feel like I should have seen more of his stuff. But he's just not in a ton of things. Like I've seen him in Full Metal Jacket. I remember him in a small part in Dark Knight Rises. And of course he's the lab guy, Papa or whatever in Stranger Things, which I think he's probably most known for currently.
Nowadays, at least.
Yeah. It was funny because my daughter is super obsessed with Stranger Things. And so I put this movie on, and obviously he looks way different because this is 30 years previous. I'm like, Eva, who is this? And I'm showing her the movie, just the beginning, and I'm like, first she goes, Heath Ledger. I'm like, no, that's not Heath Ledger. And so I'm like, just look, who is it? And she's like, I don't know. And then she keeps looking. She goes, he's from Stranger Things. I'm like, yeah, I don't know how you saw it, but yes, he's from Stranger Things. So he still looks the same, just with white hair in the newer stuff. But so I'm looking through the list of movies and I see this movie and I'm like, oh, a coming of age story about a guy from Spokane, Washington. Now Spokane's not anywhere near me. It's like 4.5 or 5 hours drive north. It's basically Idaho. But I'm always a sucker for movies that are set here. And it's got, like I said, Matthew Modine. I'm like, I need to see more stuff with him. And it's about wrestling, coming of age. I don't know. I thought all these kind of things sounded interesting. So that's
I don't mind that you chose it. I was just curious if this is something you have been like wanting to see or was even aware of.
Didn't know it existed until we listed, or you gave me the list for 1985 movies and I went to Wikipedia. No idea. So,
and this is one of those things where like, you can read that synopsis that you gave and still, it's like, this is one of those movies. It's not like a tournament fighter. It's not like, an action adventure. Like we got to stop the bad guy, save somebody. It's just like, until you've seen the movie, I feel like it's like impossible to describe it. And part of that is because a movie like this, which doesn't have like a real hook, like,
it's not Karate
there's a button
Kid.
and if you press it, then people die or something like that.
Sure.
It's like, you just have to experience it because the time period, the place, obviously the performers, the script. In the case of this movie, I would say the music. Like there's so many things that make this movie more than what a synopsis could possibly get across.
The synopsis is like, it's not even the foundation of the movie. You know what I mean? Like it's like kind of the icing, I guess. Like the movie is...
I mean, really all a synopsis can do is give you an idea of the plot. And I would say of all the things that go into a movie, like the cast, the music, the filmmaking, the cinematography, the sets, the locations, I would say that the plot is the least important thing in this movie.
Sure.
It's like all about the vibe.
It is what's like driving it, right? Like the whole movie is about, him wanting to take down... I didn't write the guy's name down. Whatever his name was, I should look it up.
It's like it's one word. Shoot. They call him. Yeah.
That's the thrust of the movie, but it's not what the movie is about, right? Like the movie is always pointing to that direction, but it's about. It's an indie drama from the 80s. I feel like I've seen this movie, not this specific movie, but like movies like this a lot more now. And I don't feel like the movies that I've seen from the 80s were really like this. This feels kind of unique to its time because I feel like, Karate Kid, I feel like is around 1984 and it focuses on like a tournament and a winner and stuff. And I feel like there's the other movies that deal with high schoolers in a way, a lot of the John Hughes stuff, but this was so almost non-Hollywood, the way it handled everything.
Mm-hmm.
As unrealistic as everyone looked as far as being high schoolers, this felt like high school, the way everything was portrayed, his performance.
Because it's not like, there's no scene where it's like the character walks into the lunchroom and it's like crash zooms to all the different cliques at the lunch tables or something. It's like, It's not concerned with all the like tropes of high school movies. It's just a movie that happens to take place with high schoolers.
Everyone just feels like real people though, right? It doesn't feel like characters that are written into a movie. I felt like everyone felt real, like real people. Yeah. There was no like Hollywoodness to
I just
them.
feel like you read that synopsis and you already said Karate Kid, which like sort of does come to mind because it's like he's training to perform in like a sporting competition one-on-one. And there's like a love story in it. But I feel like this movie has less in common with something like that and more in common with something like The Graduate, where it's like More of a drama. It's not exactly like a tournament fighter kind of thing. There's no like, he's training the whole movie in as much as he's like jogging and doing stuff to try to lose weight, but there's no training montage where it's like really cutting to him doing different exercises or anything. It's just like a movie about some characters in a setting that has like a lot of meaning without really being easy to describe in a couple of sentences. I don't know. It's tough to put into a box even I'm trying to describe how it's hard to describe. It's like a self-defeating prophecy.
Let me try to do what I cannot do. Describe the movie. All right, let's talk a little bit before we get into like the beat of the movie. Let's talk about the cast and crew. Directed by Harold Becker, someone that I'm not really familiar with. What they have listed here is Taps, is a movie I know, but I haven't seen. City Hall and Mercury Rising.
I've seen all three of those.
Okay.
I mean, he's not like a director where I'm like, oh, even the three of those don't feel like they're all made by the same person.
Right. Still alive, born in 1928, 96 now.
Damn.
The last movie that he directed was something called Domestic Disturbance with John Travolta in 2001. So hasn't been active for a while, but has a nice
he was like 79 when he made that though, right? Like,
well, he's born in 28.
28.
Yeah. So that's the director. Owen Roseman, he is a cinematographer for The French Connection, The Exorcist, Network, Tootsie, 3 Days of the Condor, White Earp. So like a really pretty
I've also seen all of those.
like well-renowned cinematographer. And I think the movie has a really interesting look to it. Like I really enjoy how muted and I don't know. I hate using the word real, but there's just no like
that's
flashiness
100% the
to
way to put it though. Like, man, I don't know if it's like digital photography or the fact that like people are like too much of a perfectionist these days, but you don't get movies that look like it was just a camera in a location with natural light. Yeah, the way that this movie does. Like just the opening scene, as you know, I'm like musically inept. So like there's a couple of like actual like pop songs or whatever in this movie, and I don't know what they are or who they're by. Maybe you can help me out there.
Yeah, Journey I think was the first one that opens the movie when he's running through Spokane.
Yes, when he's running on the bridge at like at daybreak. It just looks amazing. It's like that kind of small rural town vibe with like that like kind of like empowering like old school ballad kind of music. It immediately gives this feeling. And I feel like a lot of it is just how it looks and like the house that they live in, it looks like it's just a house. It doesn't look like anybody did like any set dressing on it or something. It looks real, you know?
Yeah, totally. But it looks great at the same time, right? Like there's like, it doesn't look, I don't know. There's this realism that this movie has that even some of the 80s movies don't necessarily have because we don't have the digital tools that we have in 1985 that we have nowadays. But like, I don't know. It's just not fancy, but it looks great. It looks, that's why I wanted to list the cinematographer, because you see all the stuff that he worked on. I watched Network recently, and again, that movie looks awesome. It's just the dude is obviously doing some work.
I mean, that 1, 2, 3 punch of The French Connection, The Exorcist, and Network is pretty telling.
Yeah, for sure.
Like those are 3 bona fide classics.
And then I got Tangerine Dream listed as the music. Are you familiar with Tangerine Dream?
Yeah. They've done like 150 movie soundtracks or something like that, maybe more.
Right. So 80s, like the reason that we have like the Stranger Things theme and things like that is because of Tangerine Dream. They did the music for this, Risky Business Thief, Firestarter. Recently, Grand Theft Auto 5, they did the music for. They have just this electronica sound that was so prevalent in the 80s and influenced so many people. And that's why the music in this movie is so good. Plus, I mean, it's got a banging soundtrack. So it's not just the sound, like the music, but the actual pop songs that they that they put in the movie are just kind of like drive home this movie.
I mean,
and I feel like
that Tangerine Dream music just goes right along with that vibe that I was talking about, with like the running on a bridge in a rural town at daybreak with, music set behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's funny that you said more recently Grand Theft Auto 5, where Grand Theft Auto 5, how many years has that fucking game been out now?
Gosh,
and we're still waiting on 6?
15 years. Yeah, 6 is supposed to come
it's not
out
exactly
this year.
recent anymore. But
Yeah.
Have you seen, you mentioned Thief. Have you seen Thief, the Michael Mann movie?
I haven't, no.
God, the Tangerine Dream music mixed with that like old school Michael Mann look of that film. Oh, it's just like the stuff dreams are made of. Whether or not the movie's any good, like, is up for debate, but God, it looks and sounds incredible. Tangerine
Dream is one of those groups that many people have heard and didn't know that it was them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like like that was Tangerine Dream. That's them in this movie. So definitely wanted to point it out because it's a real prevalent, strong part of this film in particular.
Yeah, and I wasn't joking. I think that they've done about 150 film scores. Like it's a fuckload of them.
Yeah, their discography is 186 according to Wikipedia. Just their discography. Those are studio EP or mini albums, which is pretty insane. But they've done, like you said, they're just constantly doing movie music.
Yeah.
So
they were born to do it.
Yeah, for sure. As far as the cast goes, we've got Matthew Modine as Loudon Swain. He's the lead, and he's like in almost every scene of the movie. How familiar are you with Matthew Modine? What's your opinion on Matthew Modine? What have you seen him in the past?
Well, I mean, you have the movies you have listed: Full Metal Jacket, I've seen; Dark Knight Rises, I've seen. I'm sure I've seen him in some other stuff, but frankly, like when Stranger Things came out and it was like, oh, Matthew Modine's in this, I didn't have a moment of recognition of like, oh, he's the guy from blank.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, Matthew Modine to me is the guy from Stranger Things. I mean, I know he's been around for a long time, but it's like whether or not I've seen a bunch of stuff with him in it, it's not like he's ever jumped out to me and been like, oh, he's an Alec Baldwin or a Ben Affleck, someone who like I can name you 15 things they're in for whatever reason. I don't know. Like, I feel like now that I've seen this will be the thing that I'm like, oh, Matthew Modine's from Vision Quest.
Yeah. He's got a huge filmography and you'll see it. He just doesn't, I don't know. For some reason, he doesn't have like that star power, I guess. I
mean, you say he's got a big filmography. Is he the lead in a lot of these movies?
That's the thing, is he's not the lead. He's usually supporting in some sort of role. Like even like when I listed The Dark Knight as one of his main roles, that's a very small supporting, like he's in 5 scenes of that movie. He's in Oppenheimer recently and he's barely in that too. Like he's not in a ton of stuff.
I'm gonna scroll through his filmography real quick because this is not one that I looked at beforehand. Man, Vision Quest is early. And then Full Metal Jacket's the next movie after it.
2 years later. Yeah.
Like Married to the Mob, I haven't seen. Memphis Belle, I haven't seen. Pacific Heights, okay. Is he like the male lead in that?
He's on the poster.
Yeah, okay. So that's a movie I like. I forgot him from. I mean, that movie is, what's his name? Michael Keaton's movie. He plays like a psychopath who's like terrorizing Matthew Modine and his wife in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Gosh, Shortcuts I've never seen, regrettably.
That's a pretty big movie though, right? I haven't seen it, but I know it's a pretty big movie.
Oh, Cutthroat Island. He's the lead in Cutthroat, well, the male lead in Cutthroat Island.
Yeah, I've never seen that one.
The famously huge bomb by Rennie Harlan with Gina Davis. And if I remember correctly, they asked like half of Hollywood to be the male lead in that movie, and everyone turned it down, and he was the first one to say yes.
That's hilarious.
That's one of those things where if you go read the Wikipedia, it'll be like, they asked Tom Hanks, they asked Tom Cruise, they asked Alec Baldwin, they asked everybody. And then Matthew Modine was the only one who was like, yeah, I don't have anything going on. Seen Any Given Sunday, that movie fucking sucks. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm not seeing a ton of movies that are like high profile male lead for him. He's in The Transporter too.
Yeah, as Senator Jeff Billings. Yeah. Yeah, but he's just been around for 40 years. You know what I mean? Like he's just been a lot of stuff. So what's nice about that though, for me watching this movie, is I didn't have any expectations for him. Like I didn't really have a preconceived notion of what he should be or how he should be in the movie. There was no like, is he going to be like Matthew Modine? Because I don't know what Matthew Modine is like. You know what I mean? Like the only thing I know him the most from is Stranger Things. And I knew he wasn't going to be a weird doctor or anything. So Linda Florentino is I guess the second lead. She plays Carla, the love interest. Her career is interesting. Obviously, we know her from Dogma. She's really good in Dogma. I think the first thing that I saw her in was Men in Black. And of course, she's not in Men in Black 2, even though it's kind of set up for her to be in Men in Black 2.
Because they had to bring back Tommy Lee Jones because he's a name.
Well, if you listen to Kevin Smith, she's difficult to work with. But I was looking on her Wikipedia page, and she got into some stuff with her either husband or boyfriend who was a private investigator who he was convicted he was known as a Hollywood fixer. He served 30 months in prison for illegal possession of explosives, firearms, and a grenade. He began serving an additional sentence for subsequent convictions for other crimes, including racketeering and wiretapping. And she apparently began dating an FBI agent.
Oh my God.
In an attempt to assist him in his defense. And that's
Jesus
her
Christ.
career kind of came to an end after that. So, you know, she started out, this was her first movie. She started out, I thought she was awesome in this. And she does some things. You look through things like maybe The Last Induction, I think was kind of a more popular movie. I don't really know much about it. Men in Black obviously was really big. And then Dogma was like one of her, like a bigger lead role, I would say, for her. But then after 2009, her last two movies, Liberty Stands Still and Once More with Feeling, from 2002 and 2009 were both direct to video. And that's the last that she's been in. So
it's funny. I didn't recognize her straight away. Like I knew who this person was, but I couldn't put my finger on who. So like, I don't know, half hour into the movie, I was like, I got to know. So I pulled my phone out and I looked it up and I was like, oh shit, it's her.
Yeah.
I wasn't making the connection. I don't know. Like I may be in the same boat where Men in Black was like the first thing I'd seen her in. And that was a good, 10 years after this. So
yeah, maybe
I just wasn't used to her being so young.
Mm-hmm. We've got Michael Schofferlin as Cooch, which is such a weird name. He was in 16 Candles and in Mermaids. I don't really know him from much. Do know Ronnie Cox, though, who played Matthew Modine's dad. I think actually he was the most recognizable face in the movie.
He's been in 1,000 things. He's a that guy actor.
Totally. But, Beverly, RoboCop, Total Recall, he's super
most
familiar.
well known as, getting got in RoboCop.
Yep, for sure. Charles Hallahan is Coach Rada. He was in The Thing.
Yep. He's Norris.
He's got 1 million credits, but he's kind of one of those that guy actors.
I will always just think of his chest opening up and a monster coming out in The Thing.
Did you get excited when you saw him?
I mean, that's one of those movies where whenever I see anybody from it, I clock it and I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I blind bought the movie, the Peter Sellers movie Being There from Criterion sometime last year. And when I watched it, I had this moment of realization that blew my mind where I was like, holy shit. Doc Copper and Palmer from The Thing are both in this movie and they have a scene where they're talking to one another. I was just like, that doesn't happen. Because Kurt Russell's a big name, Wilford Brimley, and then like Keith David, but the majority of the rest of that cast are just like kind of jobber actors.
Sure.
So to have two of them in another movie together, I was like pretty excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you recognize Daphne Zuniga in the movie right away? I did. She was the like one of the news school reporters. She told him that she loved him, and when he fainted the first time. Did you recognize her?
No. I mean, I see you have Spaceballs on the fly too here.
She's Princess Vespa from Spaceballs. That's like literally the only thing I knew her from. But I was like, Princess Vespa's in this movie.
I've seen Spaceballs once forever ago. I'm not into the Naked Gun comedy. Spaceballs kind of, yeah. So no, I mean, I feel like I'd know her more from The Fly too, which I rewatched in like the last, 12 months or so. But no, I've only seen that like twice as well. So no, I didn't recognize her.
I grew up with Spaceballs, so I immediately recognized her as the princess. I thought that was pretty fun. Only other thing I've seen her in, like I don't remember Fly 2 at all. I know I've seen it, but Forrest Whitaker is in this movie. I think he's got maybe 2 lines.
Yeah, just because I recognized him, I expected him to have a bigger part, and I'm like, oh, I guess this is just before.
Yeah,
he was anybody.
He's listed in the credits as Juan Pierre Bulldozer. I don't think anyone has ever says his name in the entire movie. I don't think he actually has a character name. I think that's just from the credits.
He's just in all of the like group scenes of all the wrestlers.
Yeah, he just stands out because he's Forrest Whitaker now,
Because he's
right?
Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah. Roberts Blossom as Harry Swain. The only reason I knew him is he's the scary neighbor from Home Alone. Have a
He's
couple
the
of things
lovable hobo.
listed.
Complete coincidence. Just like a week ago, I watched an old horror movie from the 1970s called Deranged. It was the second movie that Tom Savini ever did makeup effects for, and it's basically a retelling of the story of Ed Gein, like collecting dead bodies and like, you know, stitching things together in his house. And Roberts Blossom, the kindly old hobo from Home Alone, plays the killer in the movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which was
I mean, there's a reason
trip.
he was the scary neighbor, right? Like, he is creepy. It makes sense why Macaulay would be a little afraid of him. And then
it's funny because like in that movie, yes, he is in Home Alone. He's scary when he's supposed to be, but then as soon as he's revealed to be a nice guy, he also like it's like one of those weird like optical illusions where you're looking at it and it's like, is this a vase or a face? And you're like, well, it's a vase. I only see a vase. And then as soon as you see the face, you can't see it the other way.
Right.
It's like he's scary until he saves Kevin. And then all of a sudden you can't imagine him being scary.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got like, I think 1 or 2 scenes on this, and he's kindly
He's the
old
grandpa,
man.
right?
Yeah. So, and then finally, I think she's actually uncredited, but Madonna is in this movie singing the song. What's the song called? Crazy for You. Mm-hmm. Just like in a bar. She plays. Yep. I don't think she's supposed to be Madonna. I think she's just like a bar singer. But yeah, she's singing the song in this movie. I thought that was surprising.
And the song comes back a couple times throughout the film.
3 times
as well.
The movie's in them. In fact, I'm just going to go to that note real quick because the song "Crazy for You" plays 3 times in this movie. The first time being in the bar when Matthew Modine goes there and she's singing it. Then it comes back again, and then it comes back a 3rd time. Should this movie have been called "Crazy for You"? Because they just kept playing it over and over again. Released in United Kingdom and Australia, the movie is called "Crazy for You."
Really?
So, yeah. That's pretty funny.
I wonder if that has anything to do with like, you know, most people in America probably don't know much about Native American culture or vision quests, but like in other countries, they probably know even less.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even think much about like why it was called Vision Quest until they explain it.
Yeah.
Being his friend who claims to be half Indian smokes, some peyote or whatever and has a vision for Matthew Modine that he is on a vision quest, or gets a message that he's on the vision quest. And that's kind of where the movie comes from, or the title. All right, so the movie itself, it sounds like you're pretty positive. What did you think about what we watched?
I really enjoyed it. It's just a movie that I didn't know a lot about. And again, it's not really the plot. It's just like as soon as I was in it, I was just like in that world. I was vibing with the look and the feel, and the characters, a lot of them just felt so natural. And I don't know, it's like a little bit of a hangout movie to a degree. I just like little stuff like Matthew Modine's character at night, he works as like a bellhop, like taking people's meals to them in a hotel. And it's like that hour of night, the only other guy working in the kitchen is the one cook, and he's like an older dude, and they just like hang out and talk, and like he gets life advice from him, and every night they arm wrestle. And then like when it comes to like the big wrestling match, the guy takes off work to get dressed up and come see Matthew Modine, and just like little weird relationships like that. And
I thought that scene kind of stole the show, honestly. Like his little monologue where he explains
about the soccer play, about Pelé.
Yeah, so Matthew Modine, we're going to jump around here, but Matthew Modine, we get to the final fight, and this guy who he works with is going to take an unpaid day off to go see him. He's even going to get dressed up to do it, and he has this really emotional monologue about why, because Matthew Modine's almost kind of a dick to him at this moment. He's like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?" And he explains being a part of something special, witnessing something special.
He's basically like, dude, we're friends. I care about you. I'm going to come see you do this match that you've been training for and focusing on for months.
Yeah. And just taking advantage of the moment and not letting it pass by. And I think there's a moment in class where he goes to like a poetry class or English class or whatever, and they read this poem, and the teacher, who in most movies is kind of a dick or someone that, he's a quote unquote teacher, so they don't get along, but has like a really natural, fun relationship with Matthew Modine in the movie as well, which I thought was just different and something that I hadn't really seen in a movie.
Yeah. Did you have a teacher in high school that you were comfortable joking about getting a hard-on with? Because I didn't. I'm not that close, but definitely had teachers that I was closer to. I had this teacher, Mr. Yates, and he took me to even go see WCW Spring Stampede. He was an awesome teacher. So yeah, I can definitely relate. But the fact that he's not like the evil teacher making him do homework, there's no like that any of that here. It's just like a teacher and encourages him. And so he reads this poem and asks the class, and then specifically Matthew Modine, what he interprets the poem to be saying. And Matthew Modine has this little monologue about how short life is, and taking moments, or taking advantage of the moments that you can, and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what the movie ends up being about, is like taking advantage of your moments when you have them, and life is short. And doesn't he explain that in like inner monologue or narration right at the beginning, basically saying that while he's young and he has the opportunity, he wants to try and do something of note before he loses the ability to.
Yeah.
And so it's like, again, going back to that synopsis thing that I seem to be hung up on, is like the synopsis describes that it's about a guy who's trying to lose weight to win this wrestling match. And yes, that's what he's doing, but it's less about what he's doing than why he's doing it.
Sure.
It's like he just wants to prove to himself that he can do something, even though it's difficult. And he just gets very tunnel vision about it, and makes it his whole life, even when it seems like it could negatively affect him. Yeah, because he's starting to get these nosebleeds and fainting. And then it's all about this guy's drive and determination to do something, not because he has to, but just to prove to himself that he can, or at least go through with it. And then the Linda Fiorentino character, she's just kind of casually there in the movie, and then their relationship sort of comes to a head right before his big moment, and it's all about he has potentially got something else that is monopolizing his mind now, and he suddenly thinks to himself, well, maybe I don't really care about the wrestling thing. And then her point of view is don't let me be the thing that stops you from doing this thing you've set your mind to. You have to go through with it. And the whole movie is about seemingly whether or not something is important on a grand scale, do the things that matter to you and don't give up on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it in a weird way, the movie, it gets that message across really well. And that's why I said earlier, the plot, I don't really give a shit about. It's all of the messages that the movie happens to be getting through the plot that is really of interest to me. The whole wrestling thing, it really doesn't feel like he even gives that much of a shit. When he has interactions with Shoot wants to be the typical I'm your foe, I want to get in your face. And Matthew Modine's character doesn't really care. He's not
right.
I have anything against this guy, or I feel I have to best him for bragging rights. It's just, this is the goal that he set for himself, and he's going to try to achieve it, and this guy just happens to be in his way of achieving it.
I feel like in any other movie, the bad guy is more of a bad guy. He's an actual villain, and he's not nice. They're not friendly or anything, but he's also not a villain, right? He's just
he throws shade
opponent
his way once or twice, but that's just another thing going to what we were talking about before. A guy like him is going to be a little cocky, but he's not going to be a movie villain where he's
he doesn't show up to his house, break his stuff, and threatens him, and you stay out of this, Loudon. I don't want to see you. In this part of town.
He doesn't have a band of friends who all wear the Letterman jackets and red bandanas and follow him around and beat him up or anything.
No, he's just a guy that is just good at wrestling. He's the best in wrestling in the state at a certain rate, and Loudon wants to do it. So Aladdin wants to beat him. So yeah, it's just so atypical to every other movie that I feel like I've seen, honestly, especially dealing with teens. Like, again, Matthew Modine was probably like 30 when he made this movie, but the way he's written, I think, is important because he says and does so many things that feel like an 18-year-old. Like, they're just moronic. The way he like tries to impress Linda Florentino or not impress her or pisses her off. He just does. Every move that he makes is a bad one.
Is the wrong one.
That's what 18-year-old boys do. Like, they're dumb. They think with their wieners.
He says anything that comes into his mind, and most of those things are not worth saying. And every time he finds himself alone with Linda Fiorentino, it's like
so
3 sentences in, you're like, okay, he's doing pretty good. And then he just puts his fucking foot in his mouth every time.
But that feels natural. That feels way more realistic to what an 18-year-old would say. You know what I mean? Like, he's just... Yeah. He's so dumb. And in the best sort of 18-year-old, best written way. Like, it feels very natural. He's not overly smooth. He's just a kid and over ambitious. He's constantly changing what he wants to major in because there's just different reasons. Like, he's always wanting to do something else. He wants to be a space doctor or something, and then he wants to be an OBGYN, and then you know what I mean? Like, he just keeps changing his mind, and that's fine. That's because that's what the 18-year-olds are like. I don't know. I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
There's a couple times where he like, when he like kind of forces himself on her, where I thought, oh, that would put the end of the relationship. But then like that actually that's when she like changes, which is, I thought, kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
When she's in the basement, he like forces himself on her and she gets pissed off, obviously, because she's forcing himself on her. And then the next time we see her, she's like, I want to be with you. It's like, what? I don't know about that.
I would say that not the weakest part, the most questionable part or the like most convenient part of the movie is her character. Like, he's like 18 years old or something. He's a high school senior. She is like, does she say she's 20 or 21?
I think she said she's 21.
Okay, so yeah, she's like a little bit older than him. She's like this kind of woman on her own. She's attractive, obviously. She's a little bit mysterious. She's cool because she's like an artist and wants to go out to Hollywood to be this artist. And she dresses cool, and she's just like so perfect and what a guy his age and like in his like kind of small sheltered town would, you know, desire and dream about. And then it's like just by wild coincidence she ends up living in his house, so like he's around her all the time. And then, you know, he's like kind of lusting after her the whole movie in the background. And then, like you said, it feels like he's finally ruined any chance he had with her. And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, I'll take this trip with you. And then we'll conveniently have sex while we're alone. And then she like leaves immediately. She's like the movie's most obvious and blatant plot device.
Yeah.
So she feels a little weirdly out of place. Like, she chooses that moment after they've just finally been intimate to be like, hey, you know how I said that I was going to like move out to the West Coast? Well, I've conveniently chosen right now, right after we have sex and before you have this big fight or this big wrestling match to leave. It's like, it feels like a little bit of forced drama.
Sure.
And convenient writing. I mean, it serves its function, but it's a little bit ham-fisted, whereas the rest of the movie does feel so like natural. But that's like my one complaint about like the structure of the film and the plot, personally.
Yeah. This isn't a complaint. I kind of wish we saw him wrestle more, actually wrestle. I think we see one match where he ends up getting disqualified because of his nosebleeds.
Yeah.
And then we see the final match. And I kind of wish we saw him, not like full on matches, but just see how good he was. You know what I mean? Like, I wish there was just a couple more hints of him being a really good wrestler, like kind of dominating other people, just so that it kind of builds up that suspense or tension a little bit more. Like, I don't know. This is not a complaint, more of a nitpick, but I wish that was there a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if this was a like sports movie, then there would have been more of that. But while, again, the synopsis feels the need to tell you it's about wrestling, that's really not what the movie's about. And I think that's part of the reason.
I think you're taking umbrage with I'm tired of you taking umbrage with my synopsis, man. What the heck?
It's not even your synopsis. It's just like the idea of attempting to give a synopsis for this movie, because I don't know what it would actually be without all the stuff that doesn't really feel like it's describing it well. But no, like, yeah, if this it's like the comparison to Karate Kid. Like in that movie, you see a lot more like training and stuff.
Yeah.
And in this, it's less, because it's not really about the wrestling. It's about like the inner journey that he's going through, which happens to be outwardly shown through wrestling. And I agree. Throughout the movie, I was like, we haven't even really seen him wrestle.
Yeah.
Like we're told
Right.
when he makes the announcement that he wants to drop to like another weight class,
we're told
that he is the best in his weight class in their school or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he wants to go down to, so he ends up dropping 2 classes. When he goes down to the first one, doesn't he like briefly go up against like the guy in their school who is the best in that weight class, and he like beats him immediately?
It's Cooch.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, but it's not even like a full wrestling match. It's like,
Practice.
20 seconds.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's not a lot of wrestling. There's more like just them in the wrestling room, like running drills, I guess.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying this ruins the movie. I just think they could have used 2 or 3 more minutes, just a couple short scenes where we see him wrestle. And like win. I just wanted to see him, how good he was. Like make it known and not just tell us. That's all.
I mean, I'll admit, like Matthew Modine, he spends the whole movie exercising. He's like in good shape for like a guy who's supposed to be a kid his age. But when you see shoot, he's actually like built.
Dude, the first time we see him, he's carrying like a tree trunk on his back and doing stairs. Like he's huge.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no way Matthew Modine's going to beat this guy.
And there's like a scene where he like takes off his shirt and he's like flexing as he does it. And I was like, God, this guy is like a different species than Matthew Modine.
Yeah.
And I don't know a lot about wrestling, but I assume it, there's more to it than just raw strength.
Well,
like,
he talks about how like
but
his strength is his balance, I think is what he said. Like he can use other people's strengths against him. And again, he says that. I just wish they would have show and not tell as much is all I'm saying. Just a little bit.
I think it's all about his takedowns, the way he like flips people over, and that seems to be the thing they highlight. I don't know.
Sure. Again, not a major complaint, but more of just, I would have liked to see a little bit more out of that.
Yeah.
I also thought that the movie kind of played as a comedy at parts. Like it's structured as a comedy. Like there's a scene where he decides he wants to become an OBGYN, and he writes a paper on the clitoris and asks his friend at work about what he knows about the clitoris. And so he's got this paper and he gives it to Daphne from Spaceballs. She's like the editor at the newspaper. She loves it. She falls in love with him. I don't know. We don't see the paper. We know what it's about, but obviously it turns her on in a way that she falls in love with him. And she's like, yes, we're going to do it. And then it immediately cuts to them picking up trash because they got in trouble for printing in the paper, right? Like that scene felt like a comedy. It was cut like a comedy. It felt, but it was also kind of out of place with the feel of the rest of the movie. I feel like there's a couple scenes like that where it's like it cuts to jokes but the movie isn't structured or even looks or feels like a comedy. So they're kind of out of place. Like I enjoyed it for what it was, but it just felt awkward.
Well, what about the scene right in the beginning of the movie? The first time we see him at work, and that guy, he's like practicing Tai Chi in his hotel room when his food gets delivered. And then he like gropes Matthew Modine.
Yeah.
And Matthew Modine's like, oh, no, cool, I gotta go. And he like runs out of there. And I'm like, what does that scene have to do with anything?
Anything, yeah.
It's just funny that a character is gay, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Back in the 80s?
Yeah, that's the joke, I guess. I don't know. It was definitely awkward. I feel like there's just a couple times in the movie where it's like, okay, replace some of that stuff with his training or his actual matches. I want to see it wrestle. Yeah. I also felt like it was, again, this is nitpicks more than anything. I feel like his like nosebleeds and fainting and all that stuff never actually gets resolved or explained. Is it that he's training too hard? Does he have a condition?
I would assume as much, like that, because he is like, everyone's talking about how dangerous it is to be dropping the amount of weight that he is and how he should stay in his weight class and everything. And, getting closer to the final. Yeah, he's barely eating anything, getting closer to the final match. His nose keeps bleeding. And I mean, that's my thing is I was amazed that, the one other match we saw, the nosebleed completely hampered his ability to complete the fight, and then in his final match, which is the longest one we see, it doesn't end up being as big of a problem.
Yeah, I thought the movie, the way the movie was structured and the way it was feeling, I thought it was going to end on a real downer of him like dying or something. You know what I mean? Like him pushing himself too much, and there being like a consequence to all of that. And that's not what the movie was going for, and that's fine. The music doesn't feel that way, but the movie kind of does.
Yeah.
And then when my final complaint was it freeze frames, great, look for good freeze frame at the end, but then for some reason feels the need to like a monologue what happens next in this like weird way. I don't know, that was kind of awkward too. I didn't really like that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, like
I remember they freeze on them holding him in the air. I don't remember.
Yeah, and then Matthew Modine explains like, I may not have but in the end, it's all about seizing the day. And I don't know, it was just like completely unnecessary. It didn't need to be there. And that was just a little awkward way to end it. But mostly nitpicks, not anything that like made me dislike the movie. More than anything, just the feel, the look, the music, the way, the acting, the writing, it all comes together in a way that was, I got to tell you, a bit surprising.
Yeah, I mean, again, I knew nothing of this movie, so every single thing about it was a surprise to me. But right from that opening scene, like I said, of him running on the bridge, I was like, "Ooh, I like this."
This is what I signed up for.
Yeah, that feeling never really went away, aside from despite a couple of little weird things like the groping.
Right, for sure.
Or the one scene where his buddy in the kitchen says the word cooze like 32 times in a span of like 2 minutes.
What was it? Is he talking about Linda Florentino? Is that what he's talking about? I can't remember.
I think it was the scene where he asked about if he knows about the clitoris. I think he just kept saying cooze instead of like vagina. But he said it a ton of times. I've never heard that word said that many times in such a short time span.
That's good. All right, let's talk a little bit about the budget and stuff. I couldn't find a number for this. I looked all over. It's not on any website. There's no reported budget. I can't imagine they spent more than like $5 or $6 million on this movie, though, right? Like,
probably.
It's all pretty much at the high school. There's a couple scenes outside in Spokane, but nothing that feels like they spent a ton of money on it. It has no real big name actors. So they're not paying anyone. This is, like Linda Florentino's first movie. Matthew Modine's like third. I have no idea what the budget on this is. That's completely a guess. I can't imagine more than 6 or 10 would be surprising.
Yeah.
So it debuted in 990 theaters on February 15th, grossed $2.6 million at 5th place behind Beverly Hills Cop, Witness, The Breakfast Club, and The Killing Fields. It grossed another $2.1 million in its second weekend, $1.7 in its third, $1.3 in its fourth. In its 5th weekend, it dropped to 670 theaters and grossed $1.2 million. It stayed in theaters three more weeks, less than 500 theaters, and each week grossed less than $1 million. It left theaters at the beginning of April. It had a total box office of $12 million, so not a huge hit.
I mean, I feel like it's a movie you don't hear about.
Yeah, for sure. So I have no idea if it made any money or not. Like, again, $12 million isn't anything, but if it cost $1 or $2 million, then, it did okay.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, the opening weekend, you got Beverly Hills Cop, Witness, Breakfast Club, Killing Fields. That's a tough weekend to open up against.
For sure. Even just having another, like, teen comedy,
total
drama, romance.
Different feel, though. Like, John Hughes, this does not feel like a John Hughes movie at all.
But one went on to be like a beloved classic, and the other we never heard about until
right.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
63% on Rotten Tomatoes. Roger Ebert said, "We think we know the story pretty well already. Young wrestler has 2 dreams: A, to win the state championship, and B, to win the love of a girl. The defending state champion is a man mountain who carries telephone poles to the top of stadiums. The girl is an independent drifter who's 20 years old and doesn't take the hero seriously. By the end of the movie, the only suspense is whether it will end with a victory in bed or in the ring. 3.5 out of 4 stars. So Roger liked it.
Mm-hmm.
That dude was a huge man mountain. He was so big.
Yeah.
It felt like there's no way that skinny ass Matthew Modine could beat that guy, but he did.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, he was jacked.
He was huge. Paul Adanazeo from the Washington Post said, the Karate Kid learns a new martial art in Vision Quest, a tale of wrestling and rites of passage based on the novel by Terry Davis. It's the usual dumb stuff. He strives, he fails, he falls in love, he strives some more, he wins. Not a fan over there at the Washington Post. I feel like he oversimplifies it. And when he calls it wrestling, I also feel like that's an insult to amateur wrestling, because that's usually how you describe pro wrestling. You know what I mean? Like the showmanship of pro wrestling is like they're wrestling. And you kind of make a joke out of it. And that's not what this is at all.
I'm sure he does not understand the finer points of wrestling or wrestling.
Yeah. No awards, didn't get an award for anything. And then as far as culture impact, I wrote the soundtrack had a bigger cultural impact than the film. Writing for Cashbox in 1985, Peter Burke explained the film offered a valuable lesson to the industry, showing how much a hit song can do to promote an otherwise soon-to-be-gotten movie. He continued writing that although Journey's Only the Young drew attention to the album, Madonna's Crazy for You made the soundtrack so magnetic to record buyers. He complimented that films like Vision Quest have made people aware of just how invaluable the film music connection is today. And you look at the soundtrack, it's got Journey, it's got Madonna, it's got Don Henley, it had Dio in there, which was awesome. Sammy Hagar, Foreigner. It's like just a bunch of hits and was pretty well regarded. And of course, the Tangerine Dream score too.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely had way more of an impact than the $12 million worth of people that saw it in the theaters.
Considering the conversations we've had about Matthew Modine over the course of this episode, and considering like the music is so good and they're saying like the music is better than the movie or whatever, like at the time, do you think that a star like a Tom Cruise or something would have like put this movie over the top? Do you think that that's the only thing you need to like make this a memorable, like more time honored film? Not that I think Matthew Modine's bad in it. I think he's good, but I wonder if like a hotter star would have been the only thing this needed to, because I mean everything else about it I think is, perfectly good, including Matthew Modine. But
yeah,
like,
he's
would that
good.
have been what people needed to recognize it? I don't know.
I think so, right? Where in the 80s, in the 90s, even in the early 2000s, you need star power, right? Like that's what draws movies more so than like we don't have the same amount of stars that we used to 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. So if you put Tom Cruise or I'm trying to just think of like any of the people that were in like The Outsiders, Emilio Estevez or I don't know, anyone with a name.
Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, he probably is a little too old for this time, but I guess he could probably play a teenager. Who knows? I mean, Matthew Modine was probably probably 25 when he made this movie. I imagine you put a bigger star in the movie, it does quite a bit better, but then it also costs more money. I don't know. It's tough.
I just wonder, like, if you took Tom Cruise and put him in this, and you took Matthew Modine and you put him in Risky Business, like, in how much would that affect the popularity and like long-standing love for those two movies? Because like Risky Business is a fun movie. I like it.
Yeah.
It has some questionable subject matter these days, but it also has like some good music in it. And it last time I watched it, I just remember feeling like there's certain scenes, like the night photography just looks incredible. And like, both movies have their merits, but if you were to swap them, would Matthew Modine's like less recognizable status affect that movie to a degree that would make it as like forgotten as this movie is, and vice versa with Tom Cruise?
Maybe. I also think that the understated nature of the movie, the naturalness that we've kind of been praising the movie about. They'll not as like flashy or Hollywoody also kind of undersells it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because again, you talk about how difficult the movie is to give a synopsis for. It's like if you go see this movie, you're going to the movie theaters this weekend. You've got, Beverly Hills Cop, and you've got The Breakfast Club. Just those two movies alone. It's like, it's hard. How do you overcome that? Even with someone like Tom Cruise or someone that would be a bigger star at the time. I don't know. Yeah. I think the nature of the movie is to be smaller, to be honest. Like, you hope that would catch an audience and find an audience and be able to expand past what it did. But I don't know. I don't even know if a star would do that, to be honest.
Yeah. Just food for
Michael
thought.
J. Fox? Michael J. Fox in this movie? I don't think it's the same with Michael J. Fox. I don't think he brings the same
certainly not
gravitas, even though he's like the biggest star of the year. Like, it's just a different movie with him. I don't know. Yeah, a couple of notes. Crazy for You plays 3 times, released as Crazy for You in different countries.
That's hilarious.
Made her screen debut in this movie. When you read this, you can actually go to the Letterboxd, or when you listen to this, you can go to the Letterboxd YouTube page. They have a really fun video of Matthew Modine reading user reviews of the film from this year. It's actually, he just recorded this, so that's pretty fun if you want to hear Matthew Modine read some interesting reviews of Vision Quest. People like it on Letterboxd. In 2009, interest in a sequel was generated after Taylor Lautner of Twilight expressed interest.
What?
News claimed the script existed, which Lautner reportedly approved. Nothing. I mean, it's 16 years later and nothing happened. So, yeah. That apparently they wanted to make a sequel
or remake?
It says sequel, but I don't know.
How in God's name would that be a sequel? Unless it was the classic thing of like, oh, well, it's the Taylor Lautner plays the son of Matthew Modine and Linda Fiorentino.
Probably.
That one time they slept together, she had a kid, and Matthew Modine's character doesn't know anything about him, but he grew up to have a weird fascination with high school wrestling. That sounds like a terrible idea.
Probably why it hasn't happened.
That and the fact that Taylor Lautner, I mean, what the hell's he been doing?
Right. After Twilight, he's got nothing. Based on a book by Terry Davis, mentioned before, a young adult novel released in 1979. Very similar, I guess, apparently to The Catcher in Rye, which I've never read. But yeah, a decently popular book. Also, I think from what I read, the movie stays pretty close to the book. The book was also takes place in Spokane. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think that's it. Any other thoughts about Vision Quest before we get out of here?
I feel like we covered it.
All right. Question is, for both of us, Ryan, did you miss Vision Quest?
Yeah, I think I did. I had no idea that I did because I didn't really know it existed. But
yeah,
now that I do, I wish I'd seen this sooner.
Yeah, it's worth a watch. I would say it's our first win for this season for movies I missed 1985. It only took 5 episodes, but we got it. Both of us agree we missed this movie. It's worth a watch. It's interesting. It's got really good performances. It looks great. The music kicks. Pretty much all positives. It's not going to blow you away as far as like drama. Like it's no like overly dramatic moments. Just a very naturalistic movie. Kind of surprising for 1985, I think.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I feel like there's always stuff kind of like this, maybe not always as successful, kicking around out there.
I'm just thinking about like the movies that came out like the same week, even like Beverly Hills Cop and Breakfast Club and things like that. You know what I mean? Like Breakfast Club, people connected to it, but it's realism. I wouldn't, naturalism. I wouldn't say. It's definitely plays on tropes and things like that. So. Great movie.
There were no dance numbers in this movie.
There was not. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Come back next week for episode number 6, where we will be discussing the 1985 film Return to Oz. We're going back to Oz, Ryan. You ready?
We have to go back.
All right, I'm not going to do any Lost references here. Sorry. All right, that's going to do it. Come back next week. Until then, I'm Jesse Munoz.
Ryan Miller.
Back next week for the Return to Oz.